This is a quick tutorial on how to use Excel to make data tables. So we begin with our scenario, make a data table to collect data for an experiment testing the effect of 3 different fertilizers on plant growth. Very simple experiment. The purpose of this is really to see how to make data tables in Excel, not about experimental design or anything else like that. So the height of each plant will be measured 1 time a day for 10 days. Oop, and I forgot to mention there are 3 different brands of fertilizer. That would be provided for you. So when I begin, here's Excel. It's a spreadsheet program. You have all of these boxes, and these boxes are just there for you to type in. So you can type words, you can type numbers, whatever you need. So if you look over here, here is the data table that I've constructed for this experiment. What I'm going to go through is kind of the process of how it's made. So the first thing I'm going to do is think about my variables. My independent variable for this experiment is the brand of fertilizer. The dependent variable is plant height. I usually will put my independent variable in the first column. So that is brand of fertilizer. Oops. And my dependent variable is plant height, and that's going to go in the next column. Now at this point, one of the tricky things about making a data table, if we look at our requirements, the data table should fit the data being collected. I need to measure the plant height 10 times, 1 time a day for 10 days. So I have to have a way of organizing that in my data table. And you can see how I've done that. I have this label for plant height, and that goes over all of these different days. So by putting this label up here, this label applies to all of these different cells. And then I can number out my days. So to do that, I can just type in day 1. And Excel is a wonderful program. There's a lot of things you can do with it. One of the things that it will do is recognize patterns and repeat them. So if I click on this little box right here and drag, it will just put that in there for me. So you'll notice it says day 3, day 4. So I'm just going to drag that out till I get to day 10, and it's going to produce that for me. All right, you'll notice my plant height over here is just sitting right there. I want it to be over everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all the cells that I want it to cover, and then I'm going to come up over here to the top, to this cell that says merge and center. When I click that, it's going to do that. It's going to merge all of those cells into one cell, and it's going to center that in that area. All right. That is a label, so I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bit larger, so I can go ahead up here and change the font size, and I can make it bold, and I can do the same thing to my other labels. So I want to kind of keep my labels consistent. Since brand of fertilizer and plant height are my main variables, I'm going to make them a size 14 font, and I will make them larger. You'll notice this has gotten too large for the cell, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, and if I get that little arrows going in both directions and I double click that, it will make the cell the size to fit whatever is in there. I have this in here, so I don't need that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and drag it back to the size that I want it, so I can adjust the size of the cells as I need. I have 3 brands of fertilizer. I'll call them brand A, brand B. One thing that Excel likes to do is look for patterns. So you'll notice this says brand of. It said brand of up there. Maybe you want to repeat that. So I'm just going to hit space bar, and it'll just be B and then C. So you can see how it's coming together. I click on cells, put whatever I want to in them. I can adjust the size of the cells, change the fonts, and so forth. Another thing that I need to include in my data table is a grid of lines. So I'm going to select everything that I want. Not my title. Notice there's a title over here, plant growth. I haven't put that in yet. I do not want my title within my grid of lines. But I'm going to select that. I'm going to come up here, and there's this little window. And these are borders that you can add to boxes. So if I click this little drag down menu, I'm going to go all borders. And that's going to put in a complete grid of lines. You'll notice right here, brand of and fertilizers. I stacked those just to make it a little bit more compact. It didn't have to be that way, but I think it looks good with the design of this. but I don't want this line right here. So I'm going to select those. Oops, I'm going to select those. Get rid of that border. So I'll come up here and click no border. And now the borders are gone. And now I'm just going to put in a border on the outside. So outside border. And now what I have is a border around that. It looks good with the rest of my stuff. I'm going to go ahead and put plant growth in here. That is my title. I want to capitalize that. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I want to center it over the entire data table. So I will put merge and center. Don't need any lines, but I definitely want to make it larger. So again, it's very intuitive. Make it whatever size you think looks good. You can make it bold. All right, now I have a data table. Again, I always want to check my requirements. Does it have a title? Yes. Does it have labels? Yes, it has a label for my independent variable. It has a label for my dependent variable. Does it have units? No, it doesn't have units. One thing to be aware of is you do not want to put your units in your data, like 5 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 10 centimeters, because you can use Excel to make graphs and manipulate data. And as soon as you put a letter in there with your number, it kind of messes things up. So I'm going to put my my units in here with my label. We're going to measure in centimeters. So I'll put that label right here. Now I have my units. I have a grid of lines to separate everything, and it fits my data. So that's how you're going to use Excel to make a data table. Another thing that Excel is really great for is math. You can use Excel to do simple calculations of the data that you have collected. If we take a look at this, this isn't a great example, but maybe I want to compare, I'm going to analyze my data, extrapolate a little bit. I'm going to compare the growth of each plant after 10 days to the average growth. So maybe I want to calculate an average. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click a cell, and I'm going to use the equal sign. That tells Excel to do a calculation. And I'm going to put in a formula for average. So everybody knows what average is. So I'm going to say this cell, before I do that, I'm going to put in some parentheses. So this cell plus this cell plus this cell, and close my parentheses, and then that would be divided by 3. All right, those 3 things divided by 3, that's going to give you average. I hit enter, and the average growth after 10 days of those 3 plants is 23.6666666666. So you can use Excel to do those simple calculations in whatever context makes the most sense.